Good afternoon, Miss Morales. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Mrs. Campos. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for asking. How do you feel like your lesson went?
Overall, I think the lesson went very well. The students were engaged and they seemed to understand the material. However, I did notice a few students that were struggling.
Okay, what is something you could improve on? I know your area of refinement from our pre-conference was differentiation. Do you still believe that that is an area you could improve on?
I think I could improve on providing clear instructions for the summary writing activity. Some students seemed to confused about what was expected of them.
Okay, yes, I could see that and just tying in maybe more modeling of the summarizing. I know y'all probably taught that lesson throughout the week and it's something that they have not seen before, but just make sure you always model a learning target for the students and what is expected of them. Can you explain your classroom management to me?
As for classroom management, I like to focus on creating a positive classroom culture where students feel respected and encouraged to participate. I use a mix of group work and individual tasks to keep students engaged, and I have clear rules and procedures to in place to minimize any disruptions that may occur.
Your area of reinforcement that really stuck out to me was dimension 3.3. We're going to go ahead and look at that. So on dimension 3.3, which is classroom cultures, your students seem to have respected one another and were very eager in the lesson. So the proficient descriptors, you're engaging all students in a relevant, meaningful learning, and students are working respectfully, individually, and in groups. On the accomplished side, students are now collaborating positively with each other and the teacher. So I really saw a lot of the collaboration between each other. They were very positive about the whole learning and creating sentences and really kind of jumping off of each other's ideas to grow those sentences. How are your activities or small groups structured so that students are expected to collaborate positively with one another?
Okay, so I structure my activities to promote collaboration by assigning roles with each group, and setting clear expectations for how they should interact. For example, the sentence building activity, each student had a task, whether it was choosing words or writing the sentences or helping with the labeling. This helps ensure that everyone is contributing and learning from each other.
Okay, I've actually provided some evidence where I've timestamped that during the guided practice piece of your lesson, you had students working together with their small groups. You had 4 groups with 3 to 4 students per group, totaling 15 students in your class. At one group, students were working in creating different sentence structures, compound and complex, by piecing together words and writing them on sentence strips. You had students elaborating on the ideas of their partners and encouraging each other to label each part of the sentence. When it was time for students to switch, you had another group come to this station and one student knew to go grab a game called Silly Sentences that were just words that had been color coded to show the different parts of speech, such as nouns, verbs, adjectives, and those kinds of parts of speech. This game really seemed to help those students on building their sentences and allowed you the opportunity to continue working with your small group. I just wanted to say that this was a great way of adjusting the lesson based on students' abilities. I rated you as accomplished in this domain and dimension just because those students really collaborated well together and they really took an initiative of adjusting the lesson for their needs on their own.
Yes.
So, great job there. Looking at the descriptors, would you agree?
Yes, I agree with your assessment. I'm glad that the adjustments that I made were being effective and that the students were able to be engaged in the material in all those different ways.
Great. Going back to your pre-conference, you asked if I could look at providing you with evidence on differentiating for your ELL students. This is an area I would like this is an area you would like to grow in and ensure in helping your students pass the TELPAS. I think you do a great job in differentiating lessons already by having students be responsible. For instance, referring back to the students who went and pulled out the silly sentence game. I noticed some of your ELL students were a part of that group, and this is helping them to build on their vocabulary with little to no assistance from you, the teacher, or even from their peers. You also have students writing their summary using the four quadrants practice that you learned at a workshop that you attended. Um, at the end of your lesson, I enjoyed seeing students adding content vocabulary from each subject into their writing. This is great practice for all students to see those real world connections and pulling from math, science to their life and across the curriculum. How was the training you attended?
Very informative, and I liked it very much. The TELPAS training gave me a lot of practical strategies to use in the classroom. I found the four quadrant writing technique particularly very helpful because it was great to see that it was making a positive impact on my students' learning.
That's great. I mean, your students went with it. They seem to do very well, even your ELL students. So I would like for you and the other teachers to be able to present a mini PD to our campus. Is this something that you think you would be interested in doing so we can get this going across our campus and aligned?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to share what I've learned with my colleagues and help them implement these strategies into their own classrooms.
Great. Overall, you're always such a big help to our campus, and a participant in all faculty and team meetings. You've led professional development opportunities in the past. You've served as a mentor for some of our new teachers. You're always willing to share your expertise and find new ways to engage our students. So thank you once again for all that you do to grow our campus. Back to the area of refinement, I know you really wanted to focus on differentiation, but an area of refinement that you could grow in would be dimension 2.1, which is achieving expectations. I'm going to just give you a few minutes to look at the descriptors on proficient.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are some keywords that stick out to you?
Academic expectations, all students, or most, taking initiative, following through.
Okay. So while students were for the most part able to be successful in forming compound and complex sentences, they still struggled to be successful at writing a summary of the story they had read earlier in the week. After students completed the whole group lesson and you modeled the differences between both sentence types, your students then were moved into guided practice, working cooperatively with their groups. The student stations were forming compound and complex sentences. You had the journal writing with the four quadrants, and you even provided a rubric. You also had a read and AR station, and then you had a teacher group where you were pulling you were pulling a small group of students to work with. As I walked around the room, students struggled to be able to write a complete summary with all elements needed in the story, along with providing content vocabulary words and forming more complex sentences. How do you anticipate student mistakes and misunderstandings? What do you believe was the common learning pitfall in this part of the lesson? Can students generally write a summary, or is this something that they tend to struggle with, or do you just think maybe there was too much going on for some of your ELL students especially?
I think the initial summary itself was the confusing part. I think I needed to go back and reinforce what a summary entails and what is required to write a summary before we focused on adding the compound and complex sentences into the writing. We should have focused or revisited that part of the lesson as well. Before, I think that's where my ELL students probably got more confused because it wasn't just writing sentences anymore. It was writing specific sentences in an order reflecting the summary of a story.
So, could more teacher modeling, this is what I'm getting from you, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but could more teacher modeling before setting students free in working in their station work um, be provided for the students, is what you're saying, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Another recommendation would be just to set your groups by differentiating levels. This way, you could have a group leader who could help you in addressing those student mistakes when you are working with your small group. Um, so maybe having like a higher student with some of your ELL students mixed with like your middle students, your like master's approaches and does not approach. Just think of it that way. I love the one group that was able to take initiative of their own learning by going for the silly sentence game. Your higher group of students who may finish their work early, because you did also have some of those who did go back to the table and ask you, what do we do now? Maybe you could provide them with a choice board to continue to demonstrate mastery by providing them with extra activities to help them grow in the objective.
Yes.
How do you feel about this being an area of refinement for you?
I think it's a fair assessment. I can see that more modeling and differentiating the groups would help address some of those challenges that the students faced. And I'll definitely work on incorporating these strategies to improve the understanding to get them to perform at the mastery level.
Overall, like I've said, you are a wonderful asset to our campus, and you are very knowledgeable and about a variety of teaching techniques, and it's evident that you continue to reflect on and research techniques that can be implemented to allow your students to be more successful. I just wanted to say thank you once again. I would also be sure that whatever tasks are being asked during station work or an exit ticket are those that are also modeled or taught through the course of the lesson, and I think we've both came to an understanding just that the main area was the summarizing where the students were a little bit confused. I know that students have previously learned about the summary. However, it would have been good for them to have another opportunity to have these thinking skills modeled with them before being asked to complete these tasks during a station. So I know we covered the area of reinforcement and the area of refinement, but I do have your T-tests rubric with all of the dimensions and how I've rated you. If you want, I'm going to go ahead and just let you look through it. I've given you evidence, and then whenever you are ready, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them, and if you will just sign and date it, and then I will also get you a copy. That's fine. Okay, and I know as a campus, our whole goal is to grow together. Our students are growing, we should continue to grow. So I'm going to be sending out a anonymous survey. My mind went blank. An anonymous survey, and I'm just asking for teachers to provide feedback on ways that I can grow as your leader. So just before the end of the year, if you don't mind filling that out. Other than that, if you have no questions.
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Morales, for all that you do.
You're welcome.